So welcome to the Bold Story Press Get Started Writing and Publishing webinar. My name is Emily Barras, and I am a former Vice President and Editor-in-Chief at McGraw-Hill in New York, and I am the founder of Bold Story Press 20 months ago now. And Vailes Shepperd, I'm thrilled that Joy is joining us. Joy is one of our first authors that we've published. She wrote a beautiful novel called A Good Ending for Bad Memories. And Joy is also one of the founding members of the Washington Independent Review of Books. And she has already completed her second novel. And have you started on a third, Joy?
Well, actually, I have some things that I'm removing from the drawers. They've been there for a long time. So, yeah. Yes, definitely. And hello and welcome, everyone.
So we are going to share with you some of what we know about what the things, the behaviors, the habits, the things that help writers get started writing their books and get finished writing their books, because both steps are very important. So good writing is always about something. And it's a good idea when you get started. Actually, before I get into this content, I'm going to ask the three of you to introduce yourself, and if you'd like, tell us a little bit about what you're writing or what you would like to write.
Well, I can start. My name is Patty Froyo, as in frozen yogurt. And I am an executive coach, and I also do consulting in the intercultural space, which is now known as equity, inclusion, and diversity. What I have been fascinated about for many years is how shifting our mindset in small ways can really create some amazingly positive outcomes. So I wrote and I'm performing a keynote speech on that topic, and that has led me to want to write about it. So I would categorize myself as being in the very germinal phase of wanting to write about this.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Sally, do you want to?
I'm not new to writing because I'm actually a lawyer background. And so I've done a lot of legal writing. So I know that's a lot different than novel writing, but I've always been interested in trying to, present my writing in a different way. So I've written a couple short stories about different experiences, but I put in my summary when I applied to participate in the workshop. I've been working on an idea for a book, and it's based on a person that I got to know through my legal environment. So I don't want to be the next John Grisham. I'm not, after that, but I just think it's a really interesting story, and it's about a woman character. And so basically I'm trying to develop it. I've done a table of contents. I've done some of the chapters. I did a whole outline, and I wanted to profile characters first to kind of give an idea of how this dynamic relationship evolved. But the woman character started out as a child and in my area in Ohio. And she was an only child in the family, but she basically manipulated her way through her childhood, and then she manipulated her way through her adulthood. She got into trouble, and so I kind of came on the scene to help her father out, and discovered a lot of different things. And so I want to kind of share that story. Okay. She's no longer living, so I feel a little protected, and I don't know all of the people that she came into contact with, but I really think it's kind of an interesting story. And there's a lot of side things to this. a lot of
Okay,
push-
well, Sally, let's not go into too much detail
Okay, I'm
right
sorry.
now.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
So anyway, that's my idea and that's what I've been working on. So I'm sorry. I took
That's
up too
great.
much time,
Okay,
but
good for
anyway.
you. Catherine Weiler.
I'm just trying to write a memoir, and I have done some of it, and I don't really intend it to be published beyond friends and family, but I had a rather interesting childhood and life, but I'm feeling that I'm 82. I should have done this 20 years ago. I was fine writing about my childhood, but the closer I get to the present, the tougher it is. And so I'm hoping that we're going to have some great ideas for how to get over that.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. Erin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. So I am a freelance copywriter, and I have had this this idea for a children's book since 6th grade home ec class. It was like a random assignment, and I don't know why, but like it's just been coming up in my life so much that I just feel like I need to retell the story. I can only remember like little plots, basically about a little girl and a magical horse, and that's all I can really remember. But it's like it's just weighing on me. So I told myself I was going to start it in 2020. Didn't. 2021. I didn't. It's now 2 years later. I'm like, I need to get going on this. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, great. Chloe, do you want to share with us?
Yeah, sorry, my camera's not working. Otherwise, I turn it on. But
No
Um,
worries.
I have been writing a lot of little short stories throughout my life, and I'm right now co-writing a book with a friend. It's a YA piece, and I've gotten pretty much a full first draft, but has kind of lost momentum. So I'm trying to get back in and fix it up to make it something potentially worth reading.
Okay, great. And Hannah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm still trying to get dinner on the table for my littles while I'm listening. I love to write, but I am terrified of writing a full-on novel, which is sort of my dream. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to try and figure out what the secret is to getting over that fear of not really sure where to start. I have a lot of ideas and I tend to get overwhelmed, and I really want to do young adult fiction. So that's sort of where I'm at.
Great. Okay, glad you're here. And Dion?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I can't be on camera right now. I'm doing some house stuff.
No worries.
while I listen. So my reason for being here is I've been trying to write I've been writing since I was a kid, but I have difficulties with finishing. And like it was mentioned earlier, like I have so many ideas and I try to cram so much stuff into like one story that I get a little upset and I feel like I can't fully say what I want to say, and because there's too much going on, and then I kind of quit. So I'm trying to just look for as many resources and stuff like that and motivation to actually finish projects.
Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad that you're all here. I think every writer, well, certainly every writer that I've ever known has struggled with finishing manuscripts, and many of them have struggled with getting started also. And so you're not alone. So we'll share some slides with you, as I said, and then we'll talk some more about questions you may have. Good writing is always about something. You start with, can you guys see this, or is it flashing on and off?
It's flashing.
It's flashing
It comes
on and
goes off again.
No. All right, let's see if this will stick. Okay. You know what, Joy, I'm going to send it to you and have you
Okay.
share, because I think my
Okay.
computer is dying here.
Okay.
So
Will it be possible to get this, what you're putting up on the screen, to get it emailed to us also?
yeah, we could send it to you.
Great.
Okay. You know what, Joy, it's not even letting me do that. So why don't you
I was
use
gonna
the
say, it's
earlier
not.
version?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I should use the earlier version?
Yeah. Why don't you
Okay.
go ahead and do that?
Okay.
Stupid computers. So of this group, we have, it sounded like we have about half who have started writing and want to complete, and half who haven't started yet, but have ideas for books they want to write. Okay. And have any of you taken writing classes before or as an adult? Okay. And has anyone joined? Oh, okay. Dion has anyone joined a writing community?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You have a great writing community, Catherine.
Yeah. That's right. You know.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if it'll let me do this.
Erin asked me to tell about my writing community. Ah, here we go.
Okay, can you see it
Okay.
now? Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely have time at the end for
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone can see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And do you know how to put it in presentation mode?
Well, you want me to put it in, let's see here. I don't want to, you just don't want to see this. You want to just see the main, I think you might have to, I think you might have to stick with it like this.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
can do
That's
that.
fine. Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, wait, let's try one more thing. There you go. There.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things we suggest when you're getting started is to encapsulate your story in one sentence and start with that sentence. Right. Just write out that sentence. And then you take that sentence and you stretch it into a paragraph, and you take that paragraph and you stretch that into a one-page outline. And you don't worry about every tiny detail in this process. You're getting, looking down on your story from 100 feet up, you're getting the bones, the outline of your story on paper. Because one of the reasons that writers have such a hard time getting started, at the risk of stating the obvious, is because they don't start. And the truth is, if you start the process, if you make yourself do this, that you will start to develop a rhythm. You will start to develop a pattern and a habit of writing every day, and the writing will come to you. So starting out with that one sentence, you then build it into a table of contents with separate chapters. And once you have that's your scaffolding, your table of contents, then you go into each chapter and you write a paragraph about what that chapter is about. And And when you've completed that, you go back into each of those chapters and start to flesh out that paragraph. And all along thinking of your book in terms of having a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you're keeping that structure in mind as you're working at these smaller, more manageable pieces. Sure.
I'd like to, I want to add something here that I think you all should know, and that is every time that you sort of present your book or you want to talk about your book, someone really wants that one sentence pitch. So if you really create a good one from the very beginning, you can use it as the reference throughout the entire time. And sometimes late in the book, especially books tend to go way out in the middle, and then you have to pull them back in to get it where you want to. And that sentence can help you do that even when you're that far into the book. I mean, I know we're going to do this over a period of time, but I think that one sentence, and that's why it's really important that you craft it properly and you kind of make it broad enough that it's going to capture everything that you have to say about your story. So
what was your one sentence, Joy?
I knew she was going to ask me that. And I knew, and let me just tell you that it's as difficult now as it was, but I will say that when I think about A Good Ending for Bad Memories, it was the story of two women who suffered from multiple personality disorder, who were compelled to heal themselves.
Okay. Patty, did you have a question?
Yeah, a clarification on the argument. Would that be akin to the big idea for the book?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy because, you'll discover that, your book is about so much more than one sentence. The one sentence is supposed to help you in many different ways, to bring you back to the narrative, to expand the narrative, to be able to easily tell someone about the narrative. And that's why it's a difficult thing. But here's the thing as well, as you keep writing, you can also go back and change that sentence to make it fit more to what you have written. The thing always is never to stop writing.
Okay, next slide. If you aren't already writing every day, we strongly recommend that you develop a daily writing habit. Stephen King talks about this in his book on writing, where he says that he would go into his office every day and open his laptop at the same time, sitting in the same chair. And he believes over time that he trained his muse to show up at that time each day. And writers will often talk about that once you get into that pattern and that habit, that you can feel almost a flow that starts to happen. It's like Pavlov's dogs. Your mind, your creative part of your mind is ready to go after you've established this habit, which can sometimes take 30 days, but it's a habit. It's an important habit when it comes to writing. We also recommend that you set goals, daily goals, whether that's a time period. I'm going to sit at my computer and not leave it for 90 minutes or 2 hours. And no matter what happens, I won't leave this room or this computer until that period of time is up. You can set a goal of word count. I'm going to write 5,000 words. And as soon as I get finished with 5,000 words, I can get up and leave, but I can't leave before then. And you have to be consistent about showing up. So it's that old, if you skip a day or you skip 2 days, you have to start all over, your count toward hardwiring that habit in. So we recommend that you not only set a daily goal, but that you also set weekly goals and other larger goals.
And the other thing I want to say about this, and I think it's important, every writer has a different style and a different way of writing. So that chances are that a word goal works for you or something else works for another. But I want to tell you something that to give yourself a break and the confidence. a long time ago, I interviewed Edward Jones, who's the author of The Known World. And he told me that he thought about that book for 10 years and sat down and wrote it within a month. And the thinking about writing is also writing. So some days you might show up at your desk and you might not put a word on the page, but if you're thinking about it, you know, and thinking about your story, it generally comes to you. I mean, I'm a walker, so I walk every day. It's something that I will not do. I mean, all weather, all the time, I walk. And when I'm by myself, I can't tell you how much character work gets done. You know, so there are other ways that you can do it. And then you have more to bring to the table when you sit down. So you might have a ritual that you practice outside of your writing space that you then bring into your writing space, but it's all a part of the writing. And you should know that, so that you don't feel like if you sit there for an hour and you really didn't write anything, but you thought something, that's part of the writing.
Yeah. Okay, next.
One.
Yep.
Is that the right one? Whoops.
I love that quote. It certainly applies to me. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. And so if you know you want to write that book and you want to complete it and you want to publish it, chances are good that something in your day-to-day life needs to change. Your life needs to look a little bit different to achieve that goal, because it's a big one. So that's kind of stating the obvious. Next one. Setting a total word count for the book is a good idea to start at the beginning and then begin writing. And so just to give you an idea, 10,000 words is a pamphlet. That's not a book. 20,000 words is like a long short story. It's not even a novella. 40 to 50,000 words is about 3 to 4 hours of reading time. And that's more of a novella size or a nonfiction book. 60 to 80,000 words is the sweet spot for fiction. That's a standard length novel, and it takes about 4 to 6 hours to write to read that many pages. 80 to 100,000 words, that's very long nonfiction and pretty long. That's a pretty long novel. And then finally 100,000 words plus is an epic length novel. Think Mishner, think, well, there's so many. And textbooks are that size. Biographies, like the John Adams biography and Truman, those books are going to be more than 100,000 words and are going to take 6 to 8 hours of reading. So just to give you an idea. We also suggest that you set weekly targets, that you set word count targets for weekly goals. We suggest that you find an accountability partner. I don't know about you, but I know for myself, if I want to get something done, I'm always more successful if someone I know and respect knows that this is a goal that I'm trying to make, because sadly, I'm not that embarrassed if I don't make the goal when it's just me I'm talking to. If I have to admit to someone else that I didn't do it, then I'm a little bit more embarrassed and I'm much more likely to achieve that goal. It's also important that it's important that you set the goal. It's important that you do the work to achieve the goal. And then it's important that you celebrate the goal. And that's not just a nice thing, that is a brain chemistry thing. If you're not celebrating the wins in this long trek that is writing a book, then you are more likely to burn out, to get frustrated, and give up. And so it's very important that you acknowledge it when you make the milestones, when you make the goals, and that you do something to celebrate those milestones. And then you can explore, of course, different ways to set those writing goals. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to set goals for yourself and to make yourself accountable so that you can achieve those goals. Joy, do you want to add to that?
Sure. You know, one of the things that I want to say that's worked for me, and it's been lovely. So I have a friend who's also a writer. And though we write completely different things, I write fiction, she writes nonfiction, we are each other's editors, original and, you know, first person to see the work. And frankly, when you're writing something, writing can be very exciting. And when you, especially, you know, on a day you've achieved something that you really wanted, the words work, the part that you wanted to tell goes really well. And so then you're excited about sharing it. Of course, then your friend may say, you know, that doesn't work, but that's also a part of the momentum for getting enough to be able to share with this person. And we do it by chapter generally. Sometimes if, you know, if there's a problem on a page or two, you might show it to that person. But this is almost as if, you know, like that accountability partner, but it's also a reading partner. If you can find one. And I think they're pretty easy to find because, of course, there are lots of people that like to write. And here you are. It's a good thing to share with one another. So I find that helped as well.
Yeah, this is where taking a class or joining a writing group can be very helpful, because you will find other writers like yourself who are also looking for someone to read their beta versions and give them feedback.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joy.
I was going to say, which brings us to this page.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
getting early feedback. You know, it's important. It really is, because when it's good, it makes you feel good. And when it's not, it makes you know that you still have something that you have to work on. And for me, that's part of the process. That's also good. You know, you don't always get the reaction that you expect. But most reactions gives you some fodder that you can use and work with. And so I think that's a great idea. And joining a writing group, the thing about that, which works well, is you have several people at once reading it. It's just that you have to wait your turn, as opposed to just having one other person. If you're in a group of 12, well, you know, and you have an 8-week class, you're probably only going to get 1 or 2 times to share your writing. Whereas if you have a partner, then you get to share the whole piece with them and they get to share their whole work with you. And oftentimes that, I mean, for me, that works better, period, because reading a piece and getting that right doesn't always, you know, do the rest of the book. So you need someone that's going to carry you through the entire process, meaning the entire work.
Catherine, do you want to say something about your writing group?
Sure. Yeah, because I would disagree with Joy, because, well, my writing group is made up of a group of women. We've known each other for a long time. We all met through public television. We were producers or administrators or documentary filmmakers, etc. And so we have a lot of trust in each other. That's, you know, been sort of come up over you know, many years of knowing each other. And I think that what's wonderful about the group is that it's very enthusiastic, but we get different points of view on our writing. Now, we're mostly writing memoirs. We came together as a group that was going to be writing memoirs. So, but I think that the value, one of the main values of the group is the fact that there are different points of view brought to each piece.
No, you're not, Catherine, you're not disagreeing with me. I think that's great. You're in a writing group. So you guys have been there together and you're staying for the long haul. What I was saying is, sometimes when you pick a class and it's an 8-week class or a short class, you only do a portion of each person's book. You see, right. The group stays with you all the way, and that's great because they will take you all the way through. I'm what I was saying is that it's limited if the class ends and you don't stay together and you don't have the.
Yeah,
whole
that's
book.
right. This group is more like your one-on-one with
Yeah.
your part of it that goes on. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Okay. For those of you who are writing or have written, by a show of hands, have any of you had this problem of not knowing when you're done? So many women suffer from a terrible thing called perfectionism. And perfectionism is a gender-based problem. Men do not suffer from perfectionism. And if you suffer from perfectionism, and I will admit that I do, that can really get in your way if you are a writer and it's time to say, okay, I'm done. I've done the best that I can. It's time to turn it over to a professional editor and get feedback, get a response, and go through the editorial process. And I know so many, specifically women writers, who have written beautiful works, but they can't give them up because they're not perfect yet. Joy, I don't know if you've ever suffered from that. Have you?
You know, I have a sort of a different problem. I think even back in high school, I remember one of the early English teachers said, when you're sick to death of it, it's done. Like when you just don't want to read it again, because you read it and read it and read it and read it. I can't tell you how many times you think it's great, but then it's like you go back, or maybe this word, or maybe, so you can tinker forever, but you do have to decide that, okay, this story is complete. And the tinkering is not going to change it enough to be worth your time to keep tinkering. And also, you can use that as an excuse, the perfection, which sometimes, is coupled with a kind of fear that you won't get it right and therefore you can't release it. And all of that gets so intertwined that it does make things difficult for you when you do want to let them go. And also, quite frankly, perfectionism, particularly in a first draft, just slows you down. Because it means you're just going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it again, when really, if you had turned it over, you might have found some feedback that makes much more sense than what you were thinking. And it actually will help you go ahead and bring it to the next draft. And you're going to go through a few drafts before you get it done anyway. And I want to tell you guys something that I learned recently. So I read a book recently about Marjorie Keenan Rollins, and she's the writer that wrote The Yearling. And she won a Pulitzer Prize. And she had that famous editor that all of you have probably heard of, Maxwell Perkins.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Okay. And so the book had a very intimate portrayal of the way they worked together. And it was most amazing. And I don't think editors collaborate that much anymore with their writers. But he would send the whole book back with notes everywhere. This is how, no, this doesn't work. This, think about it, put it on the shelf for a while and then go back. It was an amazing collaboration. And if you can have that, that's fine. But I don't think editors do that anymore. But I think it's really kind of incredible that you can collaborate with someone that much that will help bring about this brilliant story. And that helps you finish it too.
And if you think you're finished, but you're afraid to send it to the agent or to a publishing house, find an editor whom you trust and is good, and ask them to evaluate it for you. That's another great way to find out if you need to continue to work and where, or if you are ready to send it off.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that you always say, and that makes a difference, is your separation from the book for a while. The good thing is if you send it to an editor and the editor is going to take a few weeks or a month or something to review it and get back to you, you don't need to touch it within that time and just wait. And then when you do get it back, your eyes are a little bit fresher. Because the other thing is we can go over and over and over after that perfectionism with the same text. And then you stop seeing it properly anyway.
So let's go to the next slide. And actually, let's move a little more quickly because I want to make sure that we have time at the end to talk, to answer questions.
Okay.
So finishing is about committing to finishing no matter what. You don't quit. Another thing that we recommend, if any of you know anything about growth mindset, that's, you know, been a buzzword for a while now, but it's fascinating, and it's about brain chemistry, that our brains believe what we tell them. And so the sooner you start calling yourself a writer, the sooner you start telling the world and your community that you are a writer and that you are working on this book and that you will complete it by the spring of 2022, you will, your brain, you know, will believe that, and you will start to internalize these things that you're saying, and it's going to help you on this mission of completing the work. Joy, you want to talk about serialization?
Yeah, and this, I think, will help those people that get a part of it done, because it also gives you that same forward motion. You do one chapter, and if you actually share it with any readers like this, they'll want the next chapter, and particularly if it's good. And so that helps pull you forward. There's another one, there's a British one called Substack. And Substack, you know, it's a newsletter. You can do chapter books. You can do, you know, it's varied. It's maybe as much as varied as these are. I'm not sure about these, but it is one way to kind of force your hand. You know, you did one chapter, now they're waiting for the next one. You all to produce it.
That's what Shakespeare did, right? And
Yeah.
Dickens, yeah.
Dickens, quite a lot of them back in the day.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this because let me just say that, so I always have something. You know how you get angry at something that's going on, like the Ukrainian war, for instance, you know, and, you know, you want to say something about it. And I think blogging can come, you know, so for me, the blogs that I write are completely different than my fiction. The blogs are when I'm sort of venting, and I try to turn them into something, you know, that, so it doesn't just sound like a rant, but it helps. And I think that you start to get into a rhythm, and it's not very easy because I'm used to writing fiction, but I did start a blog, which I never did before. And I find myself almost every month, something happens in the world that I want to say something about. And the good thing is that there's so much out there that affects you. You know, we're bombarded constantly every day, and generally by something that we might want to say something about. And so getting into that rhythm of writing during the blog helps. And everybody, including Emily, is going to ask you, do you have a website? Is there somewhere where I can find out something about you that makes me want to read what you've written? And so it's a good idea. And if you're lucky and smarter than me and you do it now while you're still writing, then you already have it when you finish that book and it's ready to go live. This is another thing that I kind of want to talk about because, and someone asked me about it before, and I have always had a notebook, and I sort of sometimes find myself thinking in stories. Like you see something, you're like, oh, what if that happened? Oh, I could write this. Oh, you know, and occasionally you have something that's strong enough that you know it's a part of your story. And once you're really fully writing every day, you'll find that it happens a lot, you know, because your story is ever present in your mind in some way. And so you'll be walking about and you're like, oh yeah, I want to put that in the story. And it always reminds me, I think it was Hemingway that was it Hemingway or Fitzgerald? I think it was Hemingway that was in a restaurant in Paris, the Closerie des Lilas, you know, in Montparnasse, and he sees a beautiful woman. Yeah, it's Hemingway because he put her in a movable feast. You know, he saw her and he just had to add her somewhere in his life. So he talked about it in that book. And I think that happens to writers naturally, not always exactly like that, but you see something and you know it appeals to you and you know it belongs in your story. And sometimes the thoughts are so fleeting that you really need to keep a notebook or a diary or notes on you. Wherever you keep your notes, you'll find that once you begin to write them, you'll be surprised at how many you have. And then you'll go back as you're doing your story in terms of those outlines and chapters, like, where was that thing that I wanted to say in this particular place? And I think it's a part of reading and walking and just engaging in the world. You you will find things that fit into your story or that you want to put into your story. A journal is part of it. And this part, Emily is talking about the formalizing of it. You know, if you write the journal properly, then maybe you create that sentence that you want to lift and put into your book. My journal's not too, every once in a while, there's something so lovely in there that I've heard or read or connected that it can, you know, you can take it wholesale. But generally for me, it's a note that I have, that I'll always have and that I add.
Okay. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. That is so true when it comes to writing. I think we've said a lot about perfectionism already. So, if you haven't gotten the message yet, we really want you to develop a writing habit. We want you to do it every single day, preferably at the same time in the same place, and preferably for the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. We want you to set writing goals daily, weekly, and larger goals that you will complete the beginning and the middle by this date, or you will complete the whole book by this date. And we want you to share those goals with others, either an accountability partner or just start telling people, you know, that you're a writer, that you're working on this memoir or whatever your project is, and that you intend to complete it by this date.
And for those of, I'm sorry, I was going to say, for those of you who have a lot written, you can do it in a different way. You know, many of you said that you've written so much, so your goal can be getting that first chapter in shape. You know, you can do it that way. Which segment of the book do you want to get right? Get that sentence that tells you everything about your book right, so that you can use it to go back and get everything else straight and make sure it drives in that same direction. Make sure what you have said is there, because a lot of times, you know, you can, and again, Mark Twain used to do this, and it's in the back of Pudd'nhead Wilson. He said he started out writing the book. It was supposed to be about this. He went forward, he gets to the end, he goes, and it's nothing. What happened? You know, the characters started talking, moved, they did something very different. So then you'll find yourself having to go back and change that sentence. But what he never did was stop writing. And so you can let your characters move you. You can be shifted off your original direction, but you're still not going to stop writing because you're going to complete that project.
Someone asked earlier, I think it was Dion, about whether doing character development or you know, work on the outline, if that's considered writing. You know, if your goal is to write for an hour every morning, can you, and you're doing that work, can it be called writing? And I think there are different schools of thought on that. I believe that you should be writing, not doing organizational work, not doing research, not doing self-editing, that it is in the process of the writing, the flow of the writing, the getting the ideas out on the paper. I don't know if any of you have heard of, I'm going to blank on the name. There's a beautiful book in which they recommend that you do daily pages. And that means sitting down every morning and writing just free flow for some period of time. And if you get stuck, you just say, I'm stuck, but I'm going to keep writing. I don't know what I'm saying now, but I'm just going to keep writing. And you don't stop putting words on the page until the time is up. I find
that's Julia Cameron, I think.
Yes. And what's the name of the book?
I don't remember right now.
It's I think it has art in the table, but it's a wonderful book. It's not just for artists, but the idea being that, you know, that you're training your brain and that you are training yourself to be productive. I know that I, as a procrastinator, could spend every morning just fooling around with the characters and never get the story on the page. So Joy, I don't know if you have anything to share with it.
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. You have to write and writing. And that's the other thing, the writing can lead you out of the hole as well.
Right.
You think you must be going this, you must be going that, but if you keep writing, writing will take you on a journey, and that's what's important.
Right. Okay. Do you want to, we have a couple more slides. So we are going to, if you're on social media, we would love it. I would love it if you would like us and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then also we are, Joy and I are going to start a class to help women get started writing. It'll be an 8-week class that's going to run in June or July. In my experience in working with women writers thrive in community. And I think we need it. I think we need community to achieve our goals. And so this writing class is going to focus on, it's all live. There's no pre-recorded content. There's no video to watch. It's going to be 8 weeks of live classroom style material, and then a lot of interaction with the other writers in the group, where you will be reading each other's writing, giving each other feedback, and getting feedback from expert writers and editors. So if you're looking for community and also looking to learn, to raise your game toward that goal of writing your book, let us know, and we would love to have you in this class. You'll get the accountability, you'll get the expert feedback, etc. I ran a class last fall. Yeah, we're done now. Joy, if you want to stop sharing. That was really it was a class about publishing, and how to write your book. It didn't have the same kind of specific feedback about writing. And of that class, there were 10 women in it. And of that class, 5 of them wrote their books and published them. Wow. And 3 of them published them with me, and 2 of them published with someone else. But 5 out of 10 women, that's kind of awesome. It was actually probably 16 months time. So, and that is a testament, I think, to how women support each other and kind of hold each other up in these goals. So anyway, we would love to have you if you're interested. What questions do you have that we can answer for you or help you with?
Emily, in the case of self-help books, which is what I'm looking to do, when I think about just writing, I get, and, I've tried to do it, and I had this experience with my speech, writing the speech. I get distracted and I go into the rabbit hole of, oh, I need to research this, or, oh, I need to interview this person. So how, in your experience, how do we best kind of block time for those things and then separate the writing piece from that?
Well, as I said a minute ago, I can use that kind of work to procrastinate on the writing. And because I'm very good at doing research and very good at, doing that kind of work. It doesn't scare me the same way that writing scares me. And so my advice, and I'd like to hear Joy's answer to this too, my advice would be to not stop to do that work, to write as much as you possibly can without doing that work, and then come back and do that research and fill it in where you need to. But start with the writing and then come back and enrich the material. Joy, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing that I want to say about that is, and again, I write fiction. So for me, I research enough to know where I can put my imagination. So I'm already writing, but what I need to know is the difference between something that's really true, my idea of what I'd like to write, and then how I get to this new point. So for me, the research is there, but it's just to help me put my imagination to take you on the story I'm already trying to take you on. So the research never stops me from writing, but it gives me the information to help me write. So that's, that's how you use it, but you don't let it stop you. And generally you kind of have an idea. And I know that the book that I've just finished is far more science-based. So I needed to do a lot of research. And at the same time, I kind of knew what story I wanted to tell. So I want to know if the truth fits into my fiction. And again, so I'm still writing, but I'm also doing that research. And those are different time periods. That hour or two that you come in the morning that you write. You research any other time in the day. So you don't let it interfere.
Yeah. Zerlene, everyone in the group introduced themselves and said what they were working on when we got started. Do you want to tell the group who you are and what you're working on?
Thanks, I appreciate that. Hi, everybody. My name is Zerlene Hughes Sproul, and I'm sorry, I teach Zumba on Tuesday evening, so I'm joining late. I am a journalist and writing about myself for a change. I'm always writing about somebody else. So I'm writing about my experience as an only child, being raised by a lawyer and a blue-collar worker, and marrying a devout Christian, even though I was born and raised as a Black Jew. So I've got lots of little nuances in there. So I guess it's pretty much a memoir. And I think that's about it. I'm based in Washington, D.C. from Los Angeles.
Okay, great. I'm glad you're here. Other questions?
I had a question I put in the chat, just from the publisher's perspective, what's needed right now, or is there anything that's needed? What are folks looking for, and who are they looking to tell whatever these stories are?
Well, that's an interesting question. We believe that there are over 1 million books being published every year now, and we don't know for sure because Amazon doesn't release their numbers, but anyone can take a Word file, and format it and upload it to Amazon KDP and have a published book, have a print and ebook available right away. So the idea of there being certain genres, that come forward as a need in the market, everything is crazy now because of just the sheer volume of written books that are showing up now in the Amazon marketplace anyway, and 80% of all books are purchased on Amazon. I would tell you that young adult fiction has been, has enjoyed a lot of popularity, and I think has had a lot to do with book sales going up during COVID. But I think that memoirs are also having success during the COVID years. So I've seen both fiction and nonfiction succeeding, in the last year and a half. But I also am not one to focus too much on what I think the market needs. I'm much more focused on what I think. I want women to write their stories if it gives them joy, because I think if it's giving you joy, chances are good it's going to give someone else joy. And I especially want women to share their stories, whether it be their life stories or nonfiction or fiction, if they think that other people reading them are going to be impacted in some way for the better. So I think those are wonderful reasons to be writing too, even if you don't find yourself a New York Times bestseller when you publish. Joy, do you have ideas about?
I don't think, it's hard for me to think kind of in terms of trends, but I will tell you that I read something today that astonished me, and I figure those are the kinds of things that people, particularly people that write nonfiction, might want to write about. But this morning, I think it was in the Times, there was a story about the high rate of suicide amongst teenagers and how there is no place for them to go because they close so many facilities, so that teenagers who are in danger of committing suicide are spending an average of, sometimes weeks or months in emergency rooms, where they have absolutely no ability to really address their needs, but they will hold them there because, they're a threat to themselves being home or here or there. And I thought that is the most amazing thing. First, the fact that the number is so high, and they relate it to the pandemic and otherwise, because the number of teen suicides had gone down and now it's grown again. But the idea that the emergency rooms are acting as holding cells, and we all know what comes into emergency rooms. I mean, imagine an urban emergency room, with, gunshot wounds, and, I find it a fascinating thing. So, I mean, both for fiction and nonfiction, but it's devastating to me. The idea of it. So things like that happen all the time. I mean, Zerlene, I'm in Washington, D.C. too. And I am really just appalled by all these tent cities. I'm like, we're sending, and don't get me on my rant, because then I'll tell you we're sending 408 billion to the Ukraine, but we can't do better than our homeless people by giving them some tents and a trash can and maybe a porta-john. So those are things to write about. Those are things to blog about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you
Someone
for
asked
that.
about the class, where it's going to be. The plan is to have the class online instead of in person. Someday we'll get back to being in person. But for now, Zoom's working pretty well for this kind of thing. Any other questions? So we are also starting a writing community at Bold Story Press. Right now we have about 50 women have joined it. So we'll follow up tomorrow with an email telling you where you can sign up for the writing community if you're interested, asking if you're interested in learning more about the class, and we can set up a call with you. And finding out if there's any other way that we can help you, because whether or not, you're interested in taking our class or publishing with Bold Story Press, I am passionate about seeing more women write and publish their work, however you do it. And so if we can support you in that, we want to. So good luck, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just put her in the waiting room.
I was like, what? And I guess we stopped recording.
Yeah.
So you know better than me. How'd that go?
Hold on one second. Let me stop the recording.